Mike Fremont right there. Mike's been running for about 63 years. When I joined him, he turned it into a walk and talk so he could do both.
After a tragedy changed his life 40 years ago, Mike Fremont started running every morning to keep his mind busy and never stopped. Now, at 101 years old, he holds multiple world records for running and even became a celebrity in his neighborhood, where he still runs multiple times per week like he had been doing for the past 4 decades. Stay with us while we tell you all about Mike's life and his secret for longevity, which has allowed him to stay active and full of energy while living what he calls the best years of his life, despite being one of the oldest people on Earth. Mike Fremont was born on February 23, 1922, and for the first 3 decades of his life, he had a very normal and straightforward life. He went to college, became an engineer, got married, and had multiple children, and was saving to start his own business. Fremont even had a hobby and went canoeing with his friends at the local rivers in Ohio when he had the time. However, destiny had different plans for Mike and his family. When Mike was in his late 30s, his wife passed away from a sudden brain hemorrhage before the doctors could save her, leaving him a widower with 3 children under his care.
My wife, mother of my 3 children, died when she was only 29.
What's even sadder is that his youngest child was only 2 weeks old when the tragedy happened. Feeling overwhelmed by the death of his wife and the fact that he now had to take care of everything by himself, including his new business, Fremont simply grabbed his little daughter by the hand one day. He started jogging with her to see if that would help him clear his mind and find a new direction for his life. To his surprise, it worked so well that he kept doing it by himself at a faster pace every day until it became an integral part of his life. Even though Fremont kept running for many years after that, he wasn't interested in being competitive, since running was mostly something to do in whatever free time he could get after taking care of his many responsibilities. It wasn't until Fremont was diagnosed with colorectal cancer when he was 69 years old that life made him reconsider his activities yet again. According to Fremont's doctors, he had a big tumor that had already metastasized and infected other parts of his body, and he needed surgery as soon as possible so that they could save his life. However, the surgery was very dangerous and the chances of survival were low. So Mike decided to wait a little while to see if by changing his lifestyle he could improve his chances of survival during the surgery. His doctors disagreed with his approach, since according to them, Mike would only have about 3 months to live if he didn't get surgery right away. Still, Mike proved them all wrong, and after 2 years of a better diet and overall lifestyle, he was able to reduce the tumor size considerably by himself. Now that the tumor was much smaller, Mike's odds of surviving the surgery to remove it were much higher, so he went ahead with the procedure. Not only were the doctors able to safely remove the tumor, but they also didn't find any previously reported metastasis on any other part of his body despite checking over 30 different places with imaging. Mike owes this miracle to his diet, which he swears is the only reason he could beat his cancer and continue his life like nothing had ever happened, despite what the doctors originally suggested. But what exactly is this miracle diet? According to Mike, the cancer diagnosis forced him to dust off a book that his son had previously gifted to him, which talked about veganism and how it could prevent cancer and help patients already diagnosed with it. At first, Mike stored the book away and forgot about it while it collected dust, which is what most of us would have done if someone had given us a book about vegetables and tried to pass it off as a present. But it eventually proved to be life-saving for Mike. After absorbing that book very quickly, Mike jumped into the vegan way of life, cold turkey style, and immediately stopped consuming anything that had any sort of toxin or could be considered non-vegan. Mike's diet consists entirely of fruits, vegetables, soups, and whole grains. This meal might sound like a very common diet these days, but Mike always reflects on how people used to make fun of him and look at him weirdly whenever he said he didn't eat meat, mostly because veganism wasn't a thing back in the day when he switched to that lifestyle. Mike might have been one of the pioneers of veganism as well, and since there wasn't that much information back then, he only had his son's book and his own will to experiment as the only guides for his vegan journey. Sadly, Mike has never provided any specifics related to his daily meals. Still, he promises that he simply follows the regular vegan diets that you can already find in many books and internet articles. Mike saw the miracle of his cancer recovery as a second chance at life. So he began signing up for more competitions right after his surgery, starting with 10K races and eventually moving on to longer marathons. Now that he's 101 years old, he holds 5 titles because of his speed, which include the world record for the fastest marathon time, ages 80 and 90, the fastest half marathon time at age 90 and 91, and the U.S. record for the fastest mile for a 96-year-old man. Mike stopped breaking records after turning 96 because he stopped participating in marathons and other competitions. Instead, he concentrates on physical activity to keep his body as healthy as possible and his mind focused. Mike has also clarified that he has never paid attention to achieving maximum exercise efficiency during his workouts. He has never kept track of his running times either, because he's mostly trying to have fun while keeping his body in shape. All the records and trophies that he has earned are nothing but a nice bonus for him. Besides running 3 days a week, Fremont has been an avid canoe racer for over 60 years and is the oldest to ever participate in the Canoe National Championship. He's been canoeing for so long that he became an activist after watching with his own eyes the continuous deterioration of the rivers in Ohio caused by other people's pollution and negligence. Mike even started an activism group that pushed Ohio's government to protect the state's rivers more efficiently. He also worked with other already existing groups to make more people aware of the river's deterioration. He was so determined to protect the rivers around him.
The water pollution from runoff from the highway, including salt, would damage the quality of the water.
That he also worked with Ohio State University for about 12 years to develop a report that proved the financial and economic benefits of keeping the Little Miami River clean. Now that he's retired, Mike spends most of his time keeping his body in shape, ensuring his rivers are clean and protected, and educating anyone smart enough to listen to his many accomplishments over his 101 years of life. He also remarried eventually, despite his first wife's tragic death, and has lived long enough to meet his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, whom he loves dearly. Hence, he has even more reasons now to stay in shape so he can keep playing and spending time with the newest generations of his family.